Hello and thank you for joining me. My name is Mary and I'm with the Dallas Public Library. If you are watching this video, you might have signed up for our Frida foam printmaking kit. If you received your kit today, it should include some acrylic paint, a foam brush, a wooden skewer, which is our tool that we're going to use today, a sheet of foam, and 2 cardstock pieces of paper, one that is beige and one that is more of a fine print cardstock. So first things first, one thing I forgot is the image of Frida Kahlo, which is a simple line drawing but very beautiful. I'm not sure who to give credit for this. I found it on the internet, so thank you to the artist that made this. We're going to use this for our image today. The first step is drawing this image onto your foam sheet, and that can be difficult for those that are not so inclined to drawing, but there are ways around it. There's tracing involved, and usually when you trace, you need to put the image underneath and you need to see through the other side, right? But it's very difficult with this foam sheet of paper. But I have a tool that is called a light box, or mine is called a porta-trace. It's from New York, and it's basically, like I said, a light box. So I'm gonna turn it on, don't be shocked. And you can see through and you can see the image so that it's easily traceable. An alternative to this would be standing in front of a window and letting the light seep through both the sheets of paper, and that acts as a natural light box. And if you don't have that available, well, I have one more alternative for you, and that is you'll turn over your line drawing that was in your kit, and simply with a pencil just spread that graphite all over the back. And basically what we're going to do is it's going to act like a transfer once we trace the image onto the foam sheet. I'm going to flip that over. And you will trace. So let's see if it worked. There you go. It's a nice light drawing, dark enough so that I can see, but light enough so that I can work with. Okay, so the next step, this is the step that's going to take the longest, but let me explain something to you first. When you look at this image, you need to think the opposite. And what I mean by that is when you make a print, this white area, if you do not make engravings with your skewer tool, this is going to show up all black. So anything that you see that is white on this image is going to turn up black unless you engrave it in some way. Simply by doing the line drawing, if I engrave just the line drawing, that line is the only area that is going to be white. And when I say black and white, I'm saying it because we're using black acrylic. If I was using a different color, then I'd say that color. But I'll show you what I mean by that. So, looking at this image, like I said, these lines are just acting as borders. And we can actually create those borders, but we need to make texture in and around the face. So I want to start off with the hair because the hair kind of stands out to me and it's much easier to describe what we're going to be doing. So following the curve of the hair as it drops down to her cheek, we're going to make hair lines, I guess you could say. So I'm going to twist this around so I can show you what I mean. I'm going to go ahead and trace that edge of her forehead and then continue with lines. And I'm stopping there just because it just feels natural. And then I'm going to continue further. Now we get into a braid. As you can see from the image, the braid. And it has different curves than some of these curves. So again, follow the line of the curve and imagine what does hair look like as a line. And this is going this way. And I'm going to make those borders. I think they will help. And I also want to iterate that just because I'm doing it this way does not mean that you have to do it this way, but these are just some basic techniques that I've learned and that I find very useful. Something that I haven't brought up yet is, well, how deep do I need to use this tool to engrave into the foam? I'd say use a good amount of muscle to do that because you're going to be putting ink on this and you want to make sure that these textures that you're creating are going to show up on your cardstock paper, okay? The less amount of pressure that you put on the lines or textures that you're creating, it's going to show up less on the image at the very end. So as you can see what I was talking about, the braids, now I feel like even without looking at the final outcome, I feel like it's going to look like a braid because it's going in different directions, just like hair would go if it was tied up in a braid. So I want to switch over and talk to you about the face. Now the face is, like I said, if we don't put some texture in the face by engraving with this tool, then it's going to come out like the color that I'm using, which is black. And I really like texture, so we're gonna put some texture in here. It's gonna be different from these lines because for me, this pattern is hair. The skin pattern is gonna be different. Just like the flowers up here are going to be different too. So I suggest, and again using the curve of the face, I suggest this one is going to be a little bit more deep, so more pressure, and the lines are going to be way closer. So I will show you what I mean by that. I'll start here right in the middle. So they're much closer, much more pressure. And follow the curve of the forehead and the eyebrow here. Just continue. So I'm going to move forward. I've done a lot of the face, and as you can see, like I said, by the texture, I'm moving in the motion of the lines that are created by the face. So the cheekbones, the forehead, the chin, same with the neck, going in different directions. And so you want to get kind of creative with this, because all you can do is really visualize what it's supposed to look like, and then you'll see what it's going to look like at the very end. So let's move forward, and actually, before we do, when we're talking about eyebrows and the lips, I outlined the lines that were on the original image, so put some pressure on those lines. But I'm gonna go ahead and not do anything else to the lips. And for the eyebrows, I think I'm gonna do a few like lines like I did with the hair, but they're not gonna be as deep as, say, the face, okay? Let's move on with the flowers, because that's one texture we haven't talked about. And I'm gonna go ahead and trace those flowers, just like I'm tracing everything else. I'm using those lines that I originally have. And I trace the image onto my foam sheet. And I really can't see too well, but that's okay, because I have this image right next to me to guide me, or my imagination to guide me, you know? It's not perfect, that's okay. Art is not supposed to be perfect. Okay, so I've got some lines. I put plenty of pressure on that, but more pressure doesn't hurt if I want to go over it again. But for this, I'm gonna go with a dotted texture, because I've already used a lot of different line textures and I'm feeling a little creative here. And I'm just going to make some dots. So as you can see, I did some of the dots. You don't have to do dots. You can do whatever texture you'd like. Maybe you want to put some stars in there. Maybe you want to, I don't know, do some more circles. It's all up to you. So going beyond the face, the flowers, we have a very blank background. And again, if we don't engrave this background, which you don't have to, but if you don't engrave this, then the paint is going to stick to that surface, which is going to be very close to our cardstock paper, and it is going to be black, like my paint that I'm going to use today. And I'm a girl that loves texture, so we're gonna do some leaves, perhaps. If you'd like to do flowers, roses, whatever you like, please go ahead, but let me show you what I mean by putting some leaves in the background. Let's start down here. I'll just make a leaf. So you see the idea here, and you can continue all the way around. Lucky for me, so this is the one that I was just working on, but I started one earlier today and I'm almost finished with it. So this is what it's starting to look like, and I have a few leaves left over here, so let's work on those right now. All right, so got my printing block, you could say. It looks really nice. I kind of want to leave it just as it is, but we got to move forward and actually do the printing process. So, on to the next step. So I'm going to go ahead and make a very simple painting and show you what I'm talking about. I've got some pink here, or this is more like a magenta. Listo. That's as simple as I'm gonna go. And I'm gonna let that dry. In the meantime, I'm going to begin my print for the fancy cardstock paper. So for this next step, you're gonna want some scratch paper. I'm gonna use the original portrait Frida. Put my foam block on top of it because it's gonna get kind of dirty, maybe dirty. Take your black paint. Now usually when we're working with printmaking, we would use rollers, which we do have at the library, but that we are going to use when we have programming in person. So as you can see, I'm just covering my foam block with black. I do want to advise you, for the next step, you are going to need something like a rolling pin, or maybe even a mug or a cup would suffice. I'll make sure this block is covered in paint. Oh, it looks pretty good. Oh, except for that. Okay, let's try. Something important, you do not want to let this dry. So you gotta work quick to get the best results. I'm gonna take my fancy cardstock paper, I'll roll this, place my foam print on top, like so. And I've got something kind of like a rolling pin, and use all of your weight, put some pressure on that. And use your weight and put pressure and roll. Basically, the foam is acting like a stamp. want to see. I want to take a little peek. Ooh, I think it looks good. Okay, so now we can lift off. That looks pretty cool. And one last thing. So we were working with Frida, her face facing the left side, but now she's on our right side. The face has some texture, and anything that you want to kind of fill in, you can fill in with the paintbrush later. That looks really nice. I'd like to finish this off with some text that is from Frida's last known painting. It is a still life of watermelons, and in the watermelon in the foreground of the image, it is the words that are engraved in the watermelon say "Viva la vida," which means live life, and I want to write that text here, and I'm going to use a paintbrush and my magenta paint, and I'll put it down here. So we're gonna set this one to dry, and we're gonna make another print on the beige paper that we previously painted. Let's check it out. It looks pretty dry. Awesome. Okay, so we're gonna take our Frida and take our scratch paper and put some more acrylic paint on. I think that's good. Let's set that aside. Let's bring our painted paper, and again, just set the Frida right on top. Take your rolling pin and apply that pressure and roll. Okay, I think that's good. Hope I didn't move it too much. Now let's lift this off. Beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me in this tutorial. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I love Frida Kahlo, and if you are not yet familiar with her work, please Google her or check out some books at the library about her work. And again, thank you so much for joining the Dallas Public Library and celebrating Latinx Heritage Month. We will continue celebrating until October 15th. On October 15th, we will have children YA author Isabel Quintero, who is the author of the 2019 book My Papi Has a Motorcycle. She will be with us virtually on October 15th, so families, you will not want to miss this. More information will be coming soon on our Facebook and website. All right, thank you again. Enjoy.